Sis, welcome to our healing table.
Working with plants take a level of trust that you have to have with yourself. When it comes to the system, we're dependent on everyone else's response or what they think of what we should do or how much we should take of this and for what length of time. So it takes that out and you have to step in and trust yourself and learn to listen to your body.
A lot of times for us as teenagers, like that's the first thing our parents do. We just grow up with our parents taking us to the doctor, you going to go get a pap smear, them giving you birth control if they find out that your cramps that's the response for like, oh, my cramps have been bothering me, or they find out you've been sexually active. We started taking birth control like at 15, 14. Now, girls are having periods earlier, so like 10 or what have you, and then we're finding out in our 20s like what's going on with my body. We don't know nothing about our bodies. Now we're trying to figure out where
endometriosis come from, fibroids, cysts, and all of the things when a lot of of us have.
I'm your host Taryn,
and I'm Mika,
and this is episode 2. What are we talking about today?
Herbs for women's health.
Herbs for women's health.
I cannot wait to delve into this.
Yes, sis. I know you are passionate about women's health as well. The only research I've really kind of done, more so is for myself, just, dealing with the things that I've done. But I know you've helped a lot of women. And you've done the doula. You are a doula as well. What's your experience with women's health and what you've done so far?
So I've been a doula since 2018. I have fertility. Well, you can really say it's full spectrum, but I really specialize in fertility and postpartum support at this point. That's if I take on clients, right? But women's health has always been my passion. So that was my pathway in college. I just more so went the holistic route. So I'm really passionate about women's health, and then my own personal journey and experience as well that I do look forward to sharing with everyone as well. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, mine has been personal. One time I did go to a home birth, and then my friends was like, oh, you could be a doula. And I said, nah, because I had to get up at 12 in the morning, and I think I was there till 5 in the morning. I said, this is not for me. It was a lot of energy. And I know that doula has been, like, doulaship has just been bursting, and everybody's, like, doing it. But honestly, like, be for real with yourself whether or not it's for you, because it is a lot of work. Birth work is a lot of work.
If I take on clients now, it's definitely family and friends. Oh, okay. I definitely don't. I no longer do community in the space because it's a lot, and it is a lot of work. And I think that the more I try to understand like my path and the desire of not wanting to go into explore motherhood in that way, I'm just not passionate about it anymore.
We're going to have to talk about that a little bit too. Okay. All right. Before we get started, that's why we got this outline here to help us, because I forgot, y'all, we got to start with our tea time, okay? Yes. We got to get started with our tea.
So this is a tea a tea blend that Taryn created, so you can share with us what you have in here. Okay,
yes, it's a supportive tea. We put nettle in here. Nettle's good for nutrients. We'll probably go in depth with the herbs and stuff, but nettle's in here, red raspberry, wild rose, and lavender. So all the things that are really good for women, nice and relaxing, nourishing for the system, and then also just like, we talked about those nerve irons in the last episode, so just those nerve iron relaxing.
So cheers. We just made this tea, y'all, so it's still a little hot. So I do a light little sip.
I'll do a very light sip. Down there, might put my tongue in there because I don't want to burn. Actually, with a spoon. Because I'm not trying to burn me.
It's too hot. I'm
not trying to burn me. I can't do.
It is too hot.
I tried to give it some time. Maybe later on in the episode it should cool down. Okay, with the spoon. That's good.
It is good. I really love how that red raspberry leaf hit. Yeah.
And nettle. I will say I love nettle because of how it supports. I don't know if I necessarily like the taste or smell all the time of nettle.
Which that is coming though. Like I will say too, with like taking herbs and teas, like it's a preference thing. Like some things are just absolutely so bitter, like Cascara sagrada, even though it was the first herb I was introduced to, I only have it in capsules because it's just too bitter for me. But I think that comes with that trial and error and identify what you work. See, I like nettle, right? But I think it's important for us to understand that herbs show up differently for everybody, but everyone's taste buds is also different. And so that comes with the the notion of like creativity.
It does. But I love nettle for its properties and what it does, so I'm gonna always incorporate it. But again, it's probably an herb that, like some herbs I can enjoy by themselves. Nettle is probably not one of them ones that I'm gonna enjoy by itself. I'm gonna mix, like, of course, lavender always gives that nice, like, subtle taste, so I do like that lavender in there, the rose in there. I like the little mix of everything else up in there too.
It's good though.
It is good.
I can't wait for it to cool down. We literally just made it, y'all. Just made it before the cameras cut on. So, all right. So that's what we're sipping on today.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about some of the ingredients?
Yeah, so of course that nettle was the first one in there. I think that whenever we talk about women's health, nettle and red raspberry are just those two herbs that definitely just come up whenever somebody suggests something for women. I think as we've been further exploring, one thing that you've been pushing more so is, like, definitely make sure if that herb is for you, if you're on like any particular medications, the safety, but overall, like, nettle is really a gentle herb. Even children can use it to give, like, good nutrients. We can always use vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. We're always depleting our nutrients in some way, whether you're working out or whether you're drinking too much or just going throughout the day, you lose a lot of nutrients. And then also the wild rose is some rose that I picked, so it's still fragrant. It's not as fragrant as like regular rose, but I found when I dried it that it became more fragrant, but very pretty. And that's something special to me, the fact that I actually, like, harvested the rose and put it in there. Lavender is my first love. I think lavender
that for you.
Lavender is my first love. I think lavender is so many people's loves if you are interested in herbalism in general, but my first soap that I ever made was a lavender soap. So I've just always worked with lavender. I know in the last episode we talked about hibiscus, and I love doing hibiscus and lavender together.
Ooh, I don't know if I've ever had hibiscus and lavender, but I'm gonna try that this week. I can't say that I've ever had that combination.
They go together.
I can see them going together real bad.
They go together real bad. They go together real bad. They are really good. And then also, what else did I say I put in there? Nettle, red raspberry, wild rose, lavender. I covered everybody. So it's just a nice supportive blend. When we talk about women's health, a lot of times we always focus on the reproductive system, and it's a complex system. So a lot of these herbs help to support, and then of course, like, lavender can help with the nervous system and relaxing and different things like that. So we need to be chilling and
all of the things. I feel like it is a great balance when you consider all the things that we as women carry, and that's something that we're going to explore in today's episode. And so I think it's a very, like, nice blend. All things women's health.
It came together. My question to you, just knowing what you know about herbalism, because I made this blend for one particular purpose. We talked about it earlier. I won't necessarily share it on here, but well, okay, I won't share it in a way. We know that fertility deals with so much. I made it for one particular purpose, but then, okay, I won't, cause I'll say what I made it for. I made it to help support a miscarriage, but then I also have a friend who's dealing with postpartum, and I mean, she's nursing and stuff, so I didn't make it to help her with nursing, but also I was like, it's also a blend that can support postpartum. So would you say, like, it could support, like, different phases?
Oh, girl, you speaking my language now. Okay. So what I love about herbs, first and foremost, is that they can show up in so many different ways for certain people, and that goes into understanding the herbs, right? One thing I spoke about in the class before is material medicas, and once you look into a material medica, it's going to tell you about the herbal actions, and so once you understand the energetics and the herbal actions of a particular plant, you can see how it can be used in multiple ways. So yes, you can use this blend to assist within the space of, like, a miscarriage, but also postpartum, especially with that safety. And at the end of the day, all these herbs are very much so nutritive to the body, like rich in that nutrients. And so, yeah, the more you understand about the plants, you're able to see how they can show up in so many different avenues in life.
Okay, that makes sense.
Even like red raspberry leaf, like, not TMI, but I love it in my herbal enemas, right? Because it's so rich in nutrients, and so you can use the same herbs for some of everything.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, and red raspberry, y'all know that when we talk about herbs for women's health, like, red raspberry, just always in the conversation. Like she's always in when we talk about herbs for
girl's
women.
best friend.
It is
really
a girl's best friend.
Yeah.
My biggest thing with red raspberry, I know it's good. Is it one that you can take like all the time or just always to have to support you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when speaking to that, and I'm going to try not to get like so teacher-like, right? But all herbs, we got to understand that we can't take them all the time. So what we look for herbs that we want to take on the regular have to be tonic herbs. So with it being a tonic, it is something that can be used regularly. And tonic herbs are going to be herbs that essentially tonify, nourish, and support and help to rebuild the body, right? And so using tonic herbs regularly,
Okay. All right. Well, yes, red raspberry is that girl. She is that girl. And yes, we chose this blend clearly because we're talking about women's health today. It definitely aligned. Again, lavender and rose are friends, but nettle, raspberry. I know that you're a doula, and they have the Nora
blend.
The Nora blend, which is nettle, oat straw, raspberry, alfalfa. And I didn't find out about the Nora blend till after, after I was in postpartum. But I had actually already created that blend for myself, like after I had eaten, just off of like herbs that was good for postpartum afterwards. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. And like anytime I ever looked into like maybe even trying somebody else's postpartum blend, I'm like, I'm pretty much making like nettle, oat straw. Those are some of the key ingredients. So it definitely carried me through. And I know we'll talk about that a little bit more, but carried me through my postpartum stage with reintroducing nutrients back. I probably wasn't as consistent, but it was a tea that I think again, that nettle.
Yeah. Nettle is a game changer. And like what you're tasting in nettle, right? So nettle is an herb that can taste very earthy, right? Some people talk about how it smells, in a sense, sea-like, right? And so what you're smelling, though, is all the richness of those vitamins and minerals. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's acquired. It's an acquired taste. Some people blend it up really, really well. And I think even adding hibiscus. I know somebody who makes a tea blend, and I think she adds hibiscus. Of course, and hibiscus always gives it that red color. But to me, hibiscus is just a great blending herb because it just kind of overpowers. Most of the time, I do have to be cautious so it's not overpowering a lot of my blends, but most of the time I do find that it's like it could be overpowering. But I love hibiscus. I love the taste, the smell, the look, all of that about hibiscus.
Hibiscus is a game changer, though.
Indeed, it is. All right, so we're gonna introduce the topic of women's health. So you go ahead and get to talking about it first. I'm gonna be you are leading this episode with the women's health.
So let's talk about how we started introducing herbs into our life as women. Let's start there. So for me, I was introduced to the plants at a very young age by my grandmother, and I was dealing with imbalances with going to the bathroom regularly. So Cascara sagrada was the first herb that I remember being introduced to. And once I saw how it stabilized me, I was going to the bathroom regularly, it changed my life. And so that was my first encounter with herbs at a young age. And then as I started to grow into young womanhood, I started to just research and learn more. And so I would say after that, one of the next powerhouses that I used to transition was off of birth control. And that's when I used that Vitex, that Chase tree berry, and that was my transitional herb, and that was my game changer. So those are my two starting points. What about you?
Well, mine definitely started my young adulthood. Again, like I said, the first soap that I ever made was lavender, and that was I was learning about herbs. This was like a little over 10 years ago. I was learning about herbs, and I knew a little bit about herbs, but when I first made that soap with the lavender, I was just again, the fact that you can get the herbs and essential oils and the benefits from it in soap, be able to take it. So that was my first deep connection with a supportive herb such as lavender. And then from there, just still with more skincare. But my biggest thing was I dealt with infertility for a long time. For definitely about, I'm talking about, this was 10 years ago. It's been 10 years. I got a 2-year-old now, but it was definitely 10 years of infertility. So I was dealing with just trying different herbs, of course, because I was already going the holistic route. And before I eventually we did end up doing IVF at some point. I don't say that the herbs didn't help. I think I didn't stay as consistent. Like I said, I could read all the books, but applying the knowledge can be different. I probably wasn't as like consistent as I could have been, because like even me now looking back at the herbs, I'm like, dang, I probably should have used them a little bit longer, or could have tried some different ones. But some of the ones that I did do during that time was I remember doing Hishu Wu. Hishu Wu was an interesting one. Chasteberry was definitely another one. Maca was another one that I was looking at. I was literally trying everything. Red raspberry leaf, like anything that they said was good for women. Like I was literally trying all of them to see like what could help with fertility. And but I think that's maybe where I didn't like consistently stay with a herb, because like even with my research more on chasteberry, they're like, you need to use it for months and like consistently at least 3 months and consistently to see the changes, which I probably wasn't that disciplined. That's why I say that discipline is something different for me. Yes, I probably wasn't that disciplined, but I ended up but yeah, that's been my journey. And then even now, just like I said, in postpartum, I use my herbs then now, just through the phases of being a woman, many different herbs are just there, and I feel like you find yourself like needing different herbs. And once you know about like loose leaf herbs, like those are the things that you incorporate into your teas. You're not just like going and buying like a blend from the store or something. And blends from the store or from tea companies are totally cool, but when you get into like more of like blending your own herbs, you're just using different herbs that help with women's health.
Okay. So, as we can see, we both found our ways to herbalism and from very interesting paths. And I think that that's the importance of it. Like, who we are now as women in the herbal industry compared to, like, where we were and how we had to grow in this. And I oftentimes, tell women that of, like, it's a path, like it's a journey. Like I wasn't necessarily raised on herbs. Like I wasn't raised with a holistic lifestyle. It's more so something that I found and adopted, if you will. And then I've just learned to really incorporate it into every phase of my life. And I think that's what's important for women to know and understand of, like, for one, it's never too late, but you can use it for so many different phases. Like I said, I use it for digestive imbalances. I've used it to transition off birth control. You've used it for infertility. Like we use it for so many different things. And that goes back to that herbalism is just a lifestyle, and you learn to incorporate the herbs in different ways. And then another thing that you spoke to is staying consistent. Herbalism and working with plants is not an overnight fix. And so I think that oftentimes where people struggle with consistency in this space is having the patience. And having patience. Having patience, because we're so used to quick fixes and things happening overnight, or you take something instantly like an over-the-counter medication, and it's not that it is actually helping you heal. It is more so blocking off the communication so that you don't feel it. And when I started to really understand that with the plants, I was able to like give myself more grace with them and become more consistent. But it's an everyday practice, so it takes that discipline, like you mentioned before, to how to to just maintain it. And so now it's a ritual, though. It's all I do know.
That part. And that's why I said once you kind of like start working with herbs, and I think that is how I was looking at it before, like just trying all these different like remedies, trying to see what was going to work, these different things, and like never really kind of like sticking with one. And I will also say that I feel that I'm always, it's not even just social media, it's like books. There's whole books dedicated to women's health, but it's overwhelming. It can be like, well, what herbs are specifically going to work for me? What am I finding? And there's so many different things that you can try and work on, but it's just like kind of hard to identify sometimes, like what may work for another woman in a different aspect might not work for you. No, we definitely got to talk about that, because everybody is different.
You always have to consider the whole person and the whole plant. These plants are going to show up differently for everyone. Take your time. So as though like we've made blends, mind you, we're experienced with the plants within that way. And so I would encourage people to more so of like introduce a plant to your life, one plant at a time. Develop relationship, identify what works and what doesn't. And I think that is key within incorporating herbs into our life and with myself, whether it's a migraine and I want to explore rosemary, or if I'm having trouble sleeping, wanting to explore lavender. So I think it's like when you find those imbalances, look for things that support, and then start low and start slow. Like that is key. And so, yeah.
No, that is key because I think I found myself like, again, there's so many herbs. Then you want to learn about all the different herbs. And one thing that I was saying even yesterday that you helped me with, just even all my years of herbalism, was like the materia medica, when you talked about like really taking one herb and like actually like spending time with it, and even in a lot of books, and you know, you always find to explore that relationship with plants. And that's one thing that even has to be broken down for people sometimes, because we might not always understand like how to be in relationship with plants. Like, how do you cultivate a relationship with the different plants that might help you, and see how it might work for you in different ways, or just trying to like I said, just trying to try the next remedy, move on to the next thing. But when you had mentioned like, okay, make a materia medica, which I would read a herb book and just be writing down like the different facts about different herbs. But like now I actually like am more intentional. Okay, I'm working with chaseberry, and I just foraged some the other day, and so like I'm like, okay, well now I have chaseberry, so let me actually, and I've worked with chaseberry before a lot of times, but it was like, okay, let me go and like refreshen up my knowledge on it and actually make a materia medica now that like I'm actually like writing down everything about it and learning more about it. And just in a relationship too, we talked about healing in the last episode, doesn't fit in a box as well. I think even the relationship that you have with plants doesn't fit in a box as well. Your relationship with plants is personal. You know, it's how they make you feel, how you make them feel, and what the different ways that you work with them in return. But it's work.
It is.
It's work.
It's work. It takes dedication, commitment, and understanding. And it's a working with plants take a level of trust that you have to have with yourself. I think that because oftentimes when it comes to the system, we're dependent on everyone else's response, or what they think, or what we should do, or how much we should take of this, and for what length of time. So it takes that out, and you have to step in and trust yourself and learn to listen to your body. So there's definitely a reconnecting phase, I think, that we transition into. But it is a beautiful phase.
It is, and actually that's what I was starting to think about, because I was like, a lot of times, like even how you say you were on birth control, a lot of times for us as teenagers, like that's the first thing our parents do. We just grow up with our parents taking us to the doctor, you going to go get a pap smear, them giving you birth control if they find out that your cramps that's the response for like, oh, my cramps have been bothering me, or they find out you've been sexually active, then they put you on birth control, and we're just taking whatever the doctor gives us, and we're not questioning like, hey, what is this that we're taking? And then a lot of us are finding, because we started taking birth control like at 15, 14. Now, girls are having periods earlier, so like 10 or what have you. And then we're finding out in our 20s, like, what's going on with my body? We don't know nothing about our bodies. Now we're trying to figure out where
endometriosis come from, fibroids, cysts, and all of the things, when a lot of us have that common factor of birth control. And I'm not saying that's where it comes from, but we know that one common factor that we have is the prolonged use of birth control.
No, that's facts. And in school, they taught us about health, but like even now, just when you dive deeper into the systems and learn about herbalism, like you said, it's that reconnection and like really learning more about the reproductive system. We have health class in high school, but I don't know nothing. We're women, and we don't know about our reproductive systems at all. And it's very complex. It's not like men. It's not like men's system.
And then to layer that, all the systems are interconnected.
That part.
Interconnected. So it is layered. But I think that like we can speak to this. Okay, so if you knew the things that you know now, back then when you were in that young womanhood phase of birth control and all of the things, what are some things that you think that you would have done differently? Like speaking to your teenage self.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have got on birth control. And strangely, I actually didn't stay on birth control that long, because I've just never been great with taking things every day. And that's what, even when it comes to herbs, is really kind of difficult for me to kind of like do something every day. Birth control just kind of was hard for me to take every day. But again, I was very disconnected. I had no knowledge about my reproductive system. They found out I was sexually active, so that's why I ended up getting on birth control as well. So yeah, mine wasn't due to like periods or nothing. It was just about being sexually active. I was in high school. It's not like a excuse or nothing, but I was in high school. I wasn't like super young with it, but now that I look back at it, I was probably a little young. But I didn't really know nothing about my body. Not only that, like even with becoming sexually active, like I feel like as a woman or a young woman, as a girl, like we need to be knowing more about our bodies. We need to be knowing. You think about even like teen pregnancies, it's because we don't even be associating that when you get a cycle that you can get pregnant, and then when you have sex that you can get pregnant. Like these are just like our I think that those are our two things that like we're dealing with is like young women. Just like, okay, if I have sex, I'm trying to have sex and I want to be good with a boy and this, that, and next. Or like,
what if you knew your cycle then? That's the thing. Like,
cycle.
What if you knew your cycle? What if you understood how the cycle operates? What if you knew your cervical mucus? And what if you knew all these things to check for? Like you thinking that you just wet in the heat, but this is the main time of like, girl, protect yourself. Like, what if we knew those things? And like, even for me, I think about like some things that I would change is like I would have eaten better.
That part.
If I knew how the things that I consume affect my cycle, I would have eaten better, right? I would feel like I was eating my emotions and just eating to be eating and eating what I knew. So I would go back and change the way I eat. And then because I want to lift up some herbs in this, and for it to be like an educational piece. When I was experiencing my cramps, instead of grabbing an ibuprofen or a Midol, got me some cramp bark, right? Experiencing PMS, grabbing that red raspberry leaf. I wish I knew, like if I knew like back then what I know now, like I think a lot of things would have been different or whatever. And that's why I love to share things about women's health. And so granted, I don't have children, but I think that thinking about the generations coming behind me, even the pads that we're wearing, being mindful of all the chemicals that are going into those, right?
I remember I got introduced tampons. So when I went in the pool, like they like, okay, when you go in the pool, wear a tampon. We over here sticking up a tampon. We don't know what's in it, where
all
it
the chemicals.
From. But that's what I was going to say too. Like you said, that generation that's coming behind us, even when we think about like, and it's not even about a person being a mother, there's aunties. The knowledge that we're getting from our aunts, from our grandmothers, from our moms, it needs to be there first and foremost.
It needs to. We need to bring that back. Like we're not, I feel like, being taught anymore. Like I wish I knew these things. I wish I was educated about these things. And so I feel like kind of pulled to, now that I know it, that's why I'm always sharing of like, no, if I can prevent young women from experiencing things that I did in my teens or even early 20s, like I am doing the world, I feel like, of service. And so learning to use herbs and incorporate them and just being mindful of my experiences and being mindful of the things that they're going through. And so now when I even meet younger girls, I even give them a little bit more grace. Or even when they're experiencing things like acne, knowing that there's natural skincare companies to support or natural herbs to support within that way. And so it's literally a herb for everything. I was even using
natural skincare as a teenager. Like I was literally using whatever my mom told me about or whatever she gave me. And that's why even when you mention like, well, what would I do differently? I kind of didn't feel like I had more so like the independence of, I think I was just doing whatever kind of like was given to me, what was told to me. Like that's all I was doing. I never had the thought to just like do certain things for myself, to be intentional with the things that I was doing for myself. Even I remember, and this might be something interesting for us to talk about. I don't know if you remember the first time you ever got your cycle. I remember I got my cycle. I think I was like 10 or 11.
I was definitely 9.
Yeah, so you're young. Like we're young, and I remember wiping and seeing some
like,
blood. I was like, what is this? And I screamed. I screamed because what is going on? My mom came upstairs. She was like, oh, you're starting your cycle. But then there was also no like really an initiation. Like,
and
hey,
I
you're
feel
starting
like
your cycle.
We need that. Like starting your cycle should be a rites of passage. It really should be. Like this is where, you know how like women have blessing waves or we come together for baby showers. Like we as women should come together and support younger women going into womanhood, because that's exactly what you're transitioning into at that point. You may not be mentally or emotionally or financially, but physically you are prepared for that, whether you know it or not.
And your cycle is stuck with you until you enter in menopause. So this is something that you're going to be experiencing monthly. You're going to miss them 9 months once you get pregnant, but other than that, your cycle is with you. Like this is something that should
be embraced. Ooh, since you said that, it is with you. Another thing that I want to talk about before we go into our next phase is how our cycles are demonized. I feel like, in a sense, especially with my like religious upbringing,
and that's why I look like that, because I was like,
with my religious upbringing, I feel like it was taught like it was a curse, and
Unclean.
so I was taught to resent my cycle. Like, can y'all relate to that? I was taught to resent it and not embrace. And so I feel like a lot of times with women, it's like we feel like we're carrying around this curse. Oh, girl, why did you eat that apple, or whatever it's tied to anybody's religious or spiritual background, but it is demonized and is not necessarily embraced. And so I feel like that's another war that we struggle with. And I think that, like, for me, a part of that was like, I felt like I was carrying like resentment, or I was carrying a curse, you know?
Yes.
And so I feel like that's another thing that we don't necessarily get to talk about. It like it's just such an evil thing, when like, no, it is a part of life.
It's a part of life, and it's a beautiful thing. It's the thing that you need to have in your life to be able to reproduce and bring forth life. And even I was, you know, as far as religion goes, like, I was in a religion where it was considered unclean to like be on your period, and like you're supposed to be in this place of separation, but the place of separation was kind of like making you feel like this cast off, versus it actually being like your time that you need to go and relax and loved on and nourished and taken care of.
If people like knew like what you're going through, from the mental imbalances to what you're feeling, like all of the things, like that is a time to be loved on and supported.
It starts with the older women though. Like, as younger women, we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know where to find this information. Like, older women, and it's good that we're like within our generation that we're able to, like you said, reconnect and be able to help with the next generation that's coming on. And also, there's still space for the elders and women that were before us to kind of pick up and learn more about this and be able to still be a part of this community. And that's a part of sisterhood, just womanhood.
It is. And it's absolutely like needed. But I feel like we couldn't go without talking about that, because I do feel like that is a tough part that I experienced growing up, of like, it was such a bad, or like you said, an unclean thing, and like, this is something that I carry. You know what I mean? Like, which leads me to carrying life. So, you know, just so many other things. And I think that taught me to be disconnected. And then, like, I think too, traumas that we experience, especially in younger womanhood.
And older women have their traumas that they're passing on down to the younger women. And that's how they making them feel bad and bad about their cycles and things like that. It's trauma. That's exactly what it is. And especially we have to even go back all the way to, like, and slavery's not everybody's story, but it's a lot of African American women's story. And not only that, the patriarchy. The patriarchy, just patriarchal systems, just, you know, making us feel less than and making us feel inferior. When actually, like, our cycles and us being women and our reproductive systems are like what make us extraordinary.
Yes.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Men can't make babies.
Can't.
They can help.
Not at all. Yeah, help.
They can help. They don't birth them though.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, we've been tasked with that. We've been tasked with I mean, that's mainly what like cycles are for, but that's what makes a woman is like the fact that we deal with cycles and we got our different phases. But yeah, you got your first part where, okay, the cycle, boom, it hits you, and now we trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Then you got your middle years.
So let's talk about the middle years. I think looking back on those middle years.
Real quick, did you try the tea yet? Because it's back. We back.
Okay,
it's good. It's
let
warm.
me put this down, y'all. Taryn is a professional with the podcast and holding the mics and all the things. I'm still learning. So I'm just trying to be careful.
We'll get to the end. You be like, I ain't even drink no tea at all. And that's what you say, you're trying to be careful. Even before we started this episode, I was like, it don't gotta be perfect. Like, let's just be like, it's conversation. We just talking like it ain't perfect.
Yeah.
Nourishing.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay, so how has our cycles and our hormones, how do you feel like yours have shifted as you've gotten older?
Great question. So I feel like for me, I have really learned to embrace it. I think the first start, one of the first thing I did with embracing my cycle was like this whole somewhat of like free bleeding, right? Yep. I went from being disgusted, throwing out these pads, like, okay, well, what's coming out? Like, girl, what's down there? Now I'm spread all wild leg in front of the mirror and all of the things. So it came within like me reconnecting So I had read a book. The book that I read was Pussy Prayers. And then I had read Jambalaya.
I love that book.
And so they were talking about like having conversations with your womb. And I was like, what? Like, what does that mean? And so that is, I feel like, when that narrative for me changed. And so I learned to like start having conversation. I started with the free bleeding, and those were the things that how I started. Okay, so what I will say now is like, I look forward to her coming. I embrace her differently. So I wear either my herbal pads or I wear homemade pads. I always take my teas to welcome, my tinctures. So like my cycle is interesting enough. Not TMI, but not just trying to put my business out there, but I'm journeying into my cycle now, and I'm like prepared.
I'm about to too. Yeah. A lot of times I love that too.
When
yes, I love that. I have a sister and mom, so it's definitely always syncing with somebody. But yes, I love how we sync.
And so I'm prepared.
The science of that.
Yeah. It is, again, that goes back to us, like, just being so amazing as women. But so I have my tincture in my bags, like help me if I experience crampings. I don't experience crampings as much as I used to.
What are some things in the tincture that you?
So cramp bark is one of my go-tos. Cramp bark is has antispasmodic properties, which means that it helps with any spasms and cramps that you experience. That's one of my main ingredients in it. There's also some red raspberry leaf in that as well. I also have a little lavender for the mental imbalances and the mood changes that we experience in it. And so I'll have that, but I look forward to welcoming it now. And so it does not last as long. Right. It's not as painful. Like it is a very silent place now. I only cramp a little bit when I'm finna go off. I'm not as heavy. I remember when I was younger, I would have to wear double thick pads because I would bleed so heavy. My clots, I used to clot a lot. It was awful. I just have a really, really bad cycle. And so now I just look forward to it. I rest. I prioritize rest on my cycle.
Capital REST. For sure.
It's amazing now. Like I love the connection and the relationship that I have now with my body, and I embrace my cycle when it comes.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. I'm so happy that and that's why I always talk about being women. We always go through phases, but to just kind of like lean more into something that is with you for many, many years.
You might as well develop a relationship.
You might as well. But even realizing that you can develop a relationship, my path was a lot the same as yours, especially with dealing with infertility. So like even when like once I got married, pretty much like I was just having a cycle prior to, but when I got married, of course, now I'm thinking about kids. And so now I'm like doing a deeper dive into my reproductive system. Like, okay, well, what's wrong with me? Because once you think that you get married or whatever, or once you have sex, like I'm supposed to just have a baby whenever it's time for me to have my baby. Like I should be, because that's how fertility goes, right? Like I just have my baby when it's time. And my womb was like, no. My womb was like, no, this is not happening. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I didn't know what was going on the inside. I was going to so many different doctors and not really kind of like receiving exactly like the answers that I needed. So I honestly, even when I was going through infertility and just like trying different herbs, I didn't necessarily know what was wrong with me. I didn't know what was wrong with my reproductive system. So I think that's why I couldn't necessarily find something to pinpoint like that was going to help my particular issue. I didn't find out really till the last point. And so even before then, my cycle, I was angry. I was angry. When I dealt with infertility, I was angry. I go cry.
Sarah is gonna cry every episode, and it's okay.
Not me being a crybaby, but no. When I talk about infertility, it's a very like, even though I'm not, I am technically still infertile or what have you. But infertility was like I dealt with it for 10 years. So like when there was one time that I went home and my cycle was late. It was times my cycle be playing with me like, why is my cycle late? So I'm like, oh, like maybe this is the time like that it's gonna happen and stuff like that. And so one time it was super late and I went home and I took a test and it was negative. And I like, when I tell you I knocked everything down, I was upset. I was mad. I was angry because why are you still showing up? Like, or why are you not showing up for one? Confusing me, making me think that like I'm pregnant. And then when it was coming, it's like, why? Why are you here? Like, I don't want you to be here right now. I want a child to be here right now. Once you get pregnant, like you're not having a period. So that's that's what happened for me. But then again, even like reading that book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility, that was a book that I had got during my infertility times too. And just I learned about cycle charting. But then it became like this, it still became this weird point for me, because now I'm cycle charting and I'm doing the cervical mucus, I'm taking my basal temperature and I'm paying attention to my cycles, and I'm still like, well, dang, like, still what's going on. But there would be times when I would, like, you know, do the yoni sun bath. Sacred Woman helped a lot too, the book by Queen Afua.
Yes, it does.
Just like you said, having conversations with your womb and different things like that. So it was definitely very hard, even still up until the point when, like, I did IVF, then I had Eden, and then my cycle came back, I think, not too long after I had her, like probably like 3 months, 2 or 3 months afterwards. And it was more like welcoming. Even prior to then, I had kind of learned how to manage my cycle a little bit better, to where it wasn't like having to have fear of like it leaking out of my pants or clothes or something like that. I started doing menstrual cups, which I love a menstrual cup down, like, because I feel like it was more like freeing, not having to worry about a pad, being able to sleep. I ain't gotta sleep on my side, something like that. So it's just been, it was a lot of years of hate and just resentment for my cycle. Now that I have a child, and now that my cycle is back, like, you know, me and my cycle, we working things out. That's what we doing. I think that there's still, like, you know, healing and stuff that just has to take place as far as like me having my cycle and infertility now, but we're going through it and we flowing through it.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I even so, like, love that we're on completely different ends of, like, perspective. So even you hearing that, I'm like, dang, you know what I mean? Like, here it is where I'm saying, like, I don't want to explore motherhood and having a sister that desires and having a little bit of struggle behind it. So just listening to that is like,
yeah, we all have real different journeys. Like I said, even you hearing people that, like, you know, don't want to have any more children, or people just having a bunch of children and stuff. But again, one thing that I had to learn with infertility is it's not always necessarily like a that you find yourself like doing a lot of comparison, because like, why is it not working for me? But I watched this documentary called Eggs Over Easy that Oprah, did you watch that? Yes. That Oprah had did. And it put in perspective for me how many different things that we deal with as women. Like, I'm over here just thinking I'm in my own world, and infertility is very like, it feels like solitude. Like, nobody else is going through what I'm going through, and I'm bearing this burden alone type situation. But when I watched that documentary, I realized, like, you have women dealing with miscarriages, you have women who can't have children, you have women who deal with stillbirths, you have women who don't want to have children, or maybe want to just donate their eggs or something for later. So I was like, fertility,
and freezing their eggs. That's another thing. Women are starting to have children a lot later in life, and so women are freezing eggs as well.
So yeah, there's we really I just, that documentary put into perspective for me that, like, it's not a one size fits all. Like, as women, we're all just dealing with the same things, and it's not even necessarily like dealing, but we're all just trying to like figure out ourselves.
We're trying to navigate womanhood.
Yes,
that's the best thing. We're trying to navigate.
Yes. Yeah. And we don't have, again, like we said, our generations before us didn't necessarily probably give us the tools that we needed to navigate it. So it's like we're really trying to like blindly
learning.
Yes.
And learning through each other, I think, is the biggest thing that I identify of, like, seeing other women, I think, like, be vocal about it and talk about these things. It is giving us another space to talk about it, but we're also being able to learn from each other's experiences, because I do think we have grown out of that. Matter of fact, I know that we have grown out of the sweep it under the rug culture.
Yes.
Right? We do share, and oftentimes, sometimes probably even too much, but we do share a lot more. But I think that is allowing us to heal through womanhood and to, like, reclaim and regain and really just, like, and grow and evolve. And so, yeah.
Yes, and it's going to take for us to do that together. We have young women coming up behind us. Some women don't have moms. Like, whatever place that a community, like you said, you're always about community, and we need community because, again, we don't have moms. We might not have good examples before us. And so seeing that next to us, or, you know, examples of that, is really just going to change the game, change the trajectory for the generations that's coming after us. My daughter, like, I even just, like, she's only 2, but I still just, like, consider, like, okay, what are some of the things I'm going to teach her when she's a teenager and stuff like that. But that's why it takes for us to do the work for ourselves, you know, first, especially being moms to daughters or being aunts to nieces or, you know, just being friends with other women and they have daughters or what have you. Like, we got to have some sort of guide on our own and some kind of reins on our own so that we can help them.
Yeah. And I think so too, with like we are looking to like what we can teach, but also what we can learn. Because I think that's another thing that we've forgotten about. So like, things that you can even learn from your daughter, right? As even with you teaching, and then like things that elders can learn from us. So yes, we have realized that there has been a disconnect within community. So some things elders are still learning through us, and that's conversations that me and my grandmother have often of just like, wow, Shamika, she mentioned like a few weeks ago, I'm glad that you picked things back up with gardening, you know, that was lost for a few generations, or things that I share with her, or, you know, and vice versa. So it is really an exchange. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really a deep exchange.
It's definitely a deep exchange. Our wombs are crying out for help, though. Again, these are the places that house the next generation, that house these people that are coming into the world, that have, that everybody has passed through a womb. Like, everybody has passed through a womb. Like, we have to take better care.
It's so necessary.
It's essential.
Yeah.
Prioritize at the top.
Yeah.
So what are some herbs that you feel that have supported you in your women's health journey? We talk about like womb health a lot, but we know there's different systems. We know that the hormones are, you know, ruled by the endocrine system. So like, what are some herbs that you're using overall for your women's health?
Overall, so the Vitex, I will always lift Vitex up because it is a great balancing herb. What I will say though is that if you are or have received some hormonal replacement therapy, it may not be a plant ally for you. In that case, I would consider like wild yam or some angelica, some false unicorn and things like that. So that goes into the hormonal imbalances. I would consider the endocrine system. So like I love goldenrod. Goldenrod is a powerhouse for women's health. I always consider the mental space that women are in. So I love working with adaptogens. And so like I love ashwagandha. Yes. I love holy basil for that support of our mental health. I think is key. As far as like nutrition, I love sea herbs. And so with sea herbs, I would say like the seaweeds are really important, specifically for those that have endocrine imbalances or struggle with thyroid health. And I know this is not me speaking to a me thing, but so I allow them to show up within that way. So I do yoni steaming. So yesterday I yoni steamed. I did some sage. Yes. Oftentimes we only know sage as far as dressing, right? We don't really realize how many powerful medicinal properties sage have. So not only do I use sage to do my yoni steam, but I rinse after my cycle. And so I like to rinse with sage. I love using arnica.
That pain relief.
Pain relief. I love using the arnica topically. I love comfrey for pain management topically. What else am I using regularly? Those are the main ones that I could say that are considered generally safe without me having to go into like in-depth education. But that Vitex is a powerhouse. I think that all women should know about it. And then as far as like for my form of birth control management, so I use wild carrot throughout ovulation. Of course, I read the book Taking Charge of Your Fertility, so I had to learn to understand my cycle. So when I know that I am in my fertile window, this is when I am using these herbs the most.
Slip ups here, baby.
None. Okay. And so wild carrot is my go-to.
Yeah.
I stick with my aminogogs, you know, if need be. So it depends on my phase of life that I am in. And so right now I'm just focused on my cycle. So I'm doing my yoni steams. I yoni steamed yesterday. My cycle came on today. And yeah, it just depends on where I am.
I'm glad you brought up yoni steams. Yoni steaming has definitely like changed my life. When we talk about like those rituals that just really kind of like help to just ground you and you know, that time that you get to have some stillness and work on yourself, like yoni steaming it's good. I feel like when we have a cycle, every cycle, and you know, blood and stuff, it be having the smells. We can't say it smell like roses and lavender at all. It does not at all. So I love yoni steaming for cleansing for sure. Definitely after my cycle. And I think it kind of helps to stay in tune because as women, we all have our own particular moon cycles. And that's really how we need to be operating, like understanding that we are in our different phases and honor whatever phase we are in. And nourish, like, you know, sometimes you need more nourishment than others. Sometimes you're more active than others. Sometimes you need more rest than other. So definitely just kind of like those lifestyle changes. The anti-inflammatory diet and herbs have been helping so much. Like, of course, like turmeric, cayenne pepper is really good. I love cayenne pepper. But turmeric, of course, being good. Holy basil, love her down. I think one thing that has been really big for me, especially like with being a mom, is like stress relief. Like I need those things that are helping me to helping me with stress. The valerian tincture.
Valerian is everything. If you can get past the smell, it is everything. I think that's what deters people a lot from valerian.
It's strong.
Very much so strong. It is from the earth. Okay?
Yes, it is. It be smelling like behind the ears.
Yes. It stinks, but it is really, really good.
It is very good. It's very good. So I love valerian for just calming my nerves. Hibiscus, of course, lavender, what I was mentioning earlier. And then there's this book that I read called Earth Medicine that I really, really love. And one thing that she said was about like wearing socks on your feet and not letting like the energy slip out, like just keeping your body warm and nourished. So like tea. So it's not always, herbs are definitely going to be good support, but it's truly like a whole lifestyle factor, you know, like exercising and getting our blood flowing, moving your hips,
nutrients,
y'all.
Yes.
Move them hips, okay?
Definitely got to move the hips, get active. Like, womanhood, I think growing in womanhood is about discovering freedom.
Yes. Ooh, I like that.
I really think that's what it's about. Because that's why I feel like where I am now. Like I feel like more free than I've ever been.
Yes, and we in our 30s, we should be feeling like that.
Yeah.
In my prime, I feel like we are in our prime, in our 30s. We don't have much time, but then there's menopause. I know we didn't necessarily.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to speak
that.
into. Like, how are we going to prepare for the phases to come?
Yes.
And so. You want to answer the question first, or you want me to chime in?
You start first, and then I'll go from there.
So in preparation, so my mom is currently going through menopause, and so ways that I'm preparing to see the things that she's growing through. And
how does your mom?
My mom is 50.
50. Okay, my mom is well into her. She's 61.
Yeah, she's 50. Okay. So she's going into it, and so some things that we have got her on is like cooling sheets, more natural sheets to sleep with, using herbs like sage to assist her. For the women that explore vaginal dryness, using natural lubricants to assist. I could say do equal parts or 1-to-2 ratio of coconut oil and some slippery elms because of its mucilaginous properties.
Yes.
Will definitely help.
Because they deal with vaginal dryness.
They deal with the hormonal imbalances. As well, so lifting up that Vitex for that if you're not on that hormonal treatment therapy, that is also a powerhouse. And then my mom struggled with rest, so that valerian,
a lot
that
of black
lavender,
women struggle with rest.
Yeah, she's struggling with that. A hard time sleeping because of having the hot flashes and things like that throughout the night.
And you know what? Actually, speaking of that, I mentioned a oil that I actually use during my cycle time, but it's also really, really great for women dealing with menopause. Clary sage. Clary
sage.
Yes, sage is
a powerful.
Clary sage essential oil is just really good for helping to balance the hormones. It's helpful for dealing with cramps. I use it as well for cramps and muscle spasms as well. But it's so supportive. Like that is truly like a woman's best friend. So if you haven't dealt with any Clary sage essential oil yet, get you some of that as far as menopause. But I know that a lot of women, even going in menopause, that's just, we're always going into these new phases where our body
is always either coming out of a phase or going into another one.
And our bodies is like, you know, they're always handing us something different. So we haven't experienced menopause so much. So, you know, definitely working with other women who are dealing with it. I know my mom is. And even just like taking your class yesterday, the herbal intake class, like I'm like, okay, now I can like, I know how to kind of like work with my mom a little bit more, and you know she's definitely like exercising more, but just some different herbs that she could probably be taking daily to support her. I've already told her about hibiscus, so she does that just mainly for her high blood pressure. But
consider red clover. That's another really great one.
Yeah, that is another good one. Yes. Okay. So I'll definitely tell her about red clover as well. But so girl, look, we got to talk
about all the things. I'm lost. We got through everything.
Oh my God, yes.
So thank y'all for tuning in for episode 2.
Yes, and before we leave, we're gonna do our affirmations. But I do also just want to say to every woman, heal.
Yeah.
heal. No matter how that looks, especially even heal, sis. Even when you get into your menopause stage, like, we carry so much grief, so much emotions, like, we store so much within our womb space. So we have to heal. When we're having children, before we have children, after we have children, when we got adult children, when we don't have children, and we just dealing with ourselves, like, heal. Do what it takes to heal. It's not a work that happens in one day, and you might not even, it's a journey. You probably not even gonna fully figure it out in your life, but just heal so that you have that peace. We talk about stress being a big thing, but once you heal, like, you feel better as far as like stress.
But we should be pulling back layers, I think, as we're evolving in womanhood. Like, I don't want to carry my childhood trauma into menopause. Like, I should have dealt with that throughout life. And that's how I hold myself accountable to the work. Indeed.
Okay, y'all. So heal. Before we close out, guys, please leave comments down below if you have any discussion on this topic. We'll probably try to bring it up in another episode. And we just want to hear what you guys have to say. Of course, y'all are women too. We all have our own different experiences, so we want to hear what you guys are talking about. And then what's our social medias?
Yes, all the social media platforms is our healing table. Okay, we will have everything linked below. Feel free to check us out online. And we're going to leave y'all with an affirmation. We will leave y'all with an affirmation and start y'all with a T every episode. So today's affirmation is,
I honor my body's wisdom and trust the cycles that guide me.
That's deep.
That is deep. I honor my body's wisdom and trust the cycles that guide me, because, again, as women, those cycles are definitely guiding us, and our cycles are personal to ourselves, so we have to honor that as well. That was a good episode. It went by like faster than I thought. You know, some topics you could talk about for days and hours.
This is one.
This was one.
This is one that I feel like I can talk about it forever. I love being a woman. I love being able to show up for other women, and I am enjoying my cycles throughout life.
Yes, me too. Honestly, I'm definitely enjoying it as well. So, cheers to being a woman.
Cheers. So, being a woman, womanhood, and sisterhood. Because what we are doing is supporting each other through sisterhood.
That part. So, all right, guys, that was another episode in the books. Until next time.
Peace.